Good evening and welcome to 2014's last broadcast of 1010, your top 10 news in 10 minutes. I'm Andy Hong. I hope you guys had a great Christmas yesterday and Hanukkah over the weeks, and enjoy the rest of the year. Last Wednesday, there was a momentous in Colombian journalist Juan Carlos Iragorri's words Berlin Wall moment as the United States and Cuba normalized relations after 5 decades of Cold War tensions. The ties between the two nations were cut in 1961, just 2 years after Cuba's communist revolution of 1959. Since then, dictator Fidel Castro and his family has ruled the country. In fact, the family was in power even as President Obama opened up the Iron Curtain across the Gulf of Mexico. Interestingly, Pope Francis had a significant role in this groundbreaking policy. He was a major mediator of the talks between the US and Cuba, leading Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa to, according to BBC, liken the deal to a religious miracle. Although the change had its supporters and denouncers, there is no doubt that this is the beginning of a new era for US-Cuban relations. The war on the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria continued throughout this past week. A Jordanian pilot is currently held captive by ISIS when his F-16 went down. For unconfirmed reasons, the U.S. military, citing the possibility of a mechanical failure, is denying ISIS assertions that the militant Sunni group shot the plane down. Released photos of the pilot show indications of possible torture by the group, despite the pilot's family's pleas for mercy. Yesterday, however, the coalition struck back by killing the ISIS-appointed governor of the captive city of Mosul through an airstrike. Hassan Said al-Jabouri was in office for only 25 days, as his predecessor was also killed by a U.S. airstrike. As the war in Iraq and Syria escalates in the United States, another one has begun to wind down. Yesterday, President Obama visited a Marine Corps base in Hawaii to thank American service members and speak of the ending of the war in Afghanistan. Although 2014 has been the deadliest year of the war, NATO-led combat missions are scheduled to end by next week, with around 10,800 U.S. troops left behind for the first months of 2015 to tie loose ends. The president assured us that Afghanistan would not be a source of terrorist attacks again, and we all certainly hope so. Race has been a controversy in America for centuries, but tensions are at a breaking point in levels not seen for years. After the deaths of Michael Brown in Ferguson and Eric Garner in New York, as well as the botched grand jury decisions of the officers who killed the African-American men. Last Saturday, 2 NYPD cops, Officer Rafael Ramos and Officer Wenjian Liu, were murdered by a racially charged gunman. Yesterday, people erupted in protests again when an African-American teen named Antonia Martin was killed by a Missouri police officer in Berkeley, which is near Ferguson. However, this most recent case is different, as security camera footage seems to support the unnamed officer's claim that Martin pointed a gun at the officer. Hopefully, our justice system will work this time and make sure the truth is revealed and justice is served. There was another police-related death in San Diego when a 40-year-old U.S. citizen was killed by an officer's stun gun at a U.S.-Mexico border crossing. According to CBS, the San Diego Police Department announced that the man who was wanted on a felony charge attempted to cross the border on foot, and when officers tried to take him into custody, the man attacked an agent, prompting an agent to use his taser. The officers found heroin on the man during a body search. Security in these border stations, however, is not the only major security problem for travelers. Authorities have recently arrested an airport baggage handler and a former Delta Airlines employee for being a part of the gun smuggling ring, where guns were loaded onto passenger planes as carry-on baggage and dropped off at various locations in New York City. I guess in a country where even the Secret Service repeatedly fails to keep armed men away from the president, this might become the new normal. And who would have ever thought that a Seth Rogen movie would have caused U.S.-North Korean relations to deteriorate even more so quickly after the FBI's quick and considered by some to be questionable accusation of the North Koreans for hacking into Sony to retaliate against the movie The Interview. North Korea's internet connection has been spotty due to mysterious causes for the past few days. Yes, the North Koreans do have internet, and apparently they also have television, albeit for only one channel. The North Korean Central News Agency has made no remarks on the Sony hacking, and the government has denied any allegations of being behind the hack, although, according to CNN, they did denounce the United States for being behind the release of the movie. The movie is now being streamed online and released in select theaters with people rushing to watch it out of patriotism. Russia is in some financial hot water as U.S. sanctions and falling oil prices caused the ruble to plummet in value. With Christmas in Russia coming up next week on the 7th, as it is in the Eastern Orthodox Christian calendar, government officials were to have a break over the holidays until President Putin, citing the financial turmoil, canceled the break. The government and its various structures cannot afford such extensive holidays, at least not this year, Putin announced in a televised speech. Imagine if President Obama tried this in the United States back when we were at the brink of another government shutdown. President Putin made a lot of questionable policies, but you have to admit that this move is a pretty admirable one. Russian politicians aren't the only ones missing out on Christmas this year. The government of Sierra Leone, the country hit hardest by the Ebola epidemic, banned all public festivities, including Christmas and New Year. The ban was created hopefully to prevent the disease from spreading deep into the country as people return to their hometowns for the holidays. The implementation is going to be difficult because one of the main reasons for the high infection rate in Sierra Leone is that the people were slow to believe the health workers' warnings and were in denial of the disease's existence. It seems that though prevention is the best cure for disease, education is the first step toward prevention. Almost 20,000 have been infected and almost 8,000 have been killed so far. Saudi Arabia has always been thought of as one of the more stable nations of the Middle East, but it turns out that it too has its faults. Women's rights are very limited in Saudi Arabia, and for example, driving is illegal, for women at least. In order to make a point on this explicit inequality, several women have taken to protest the laws by driving. The government responded quickly and harshly after detaining 2 women for nearly a month. They were referred yesterday to a court that supposedly deals with terrorism cases. According to the activists, it was the first time that female drivers have been referred to the special court in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. Just as women's rights movements are gaining momentum in the Islamic nations, so too are the government's crackdown of such movements. For today's science news, we have a season's greetings from the sun. NASA's Nuclear Spectroscopic Telescope Array, or NuSTAR, which was made to search for black holes, has made an astoundingly complete picture of the sun. NuSTAR, being the most sensitive high-energy X-ray telescope ever built, can do many things that previous satellites couldn't do, such as actually look at the sun directly without being damaged by the radiation. Scientists are already finding uses for the new pictures. They hope to find new information on nanoflares, which are small solar flares that are hypothesized to cause large solar flares, and on axions, which are dark matter particles that could theoretically be detected through X-ray irregularities that occur when the sun's radiation hits the Earth's magnetic field. And with that magnificent holiday portrait of our sun, that was the top 10 news of this week. I'm Andy Hong. Make sure to like us on Facebook and YouTube. And for the last time this year, stay educated.